Who are these people? How do they operate? Why do they want to cut off healing for so many people who suffer so much? Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi. A rabbi is a teacher and source of inspiration, and that's what this channel provides for carnivores of all faiths. Welcome. We know the authorities hate carnivore, and we just got another chilling example. A conglomeration of transnational companies, many are big food giants like Nestle, formed a lobby and pushed Twitter and Facebook and the government to censor people like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is one of the key people responsible for the modern resurgence of the carnivore diet. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Another is what's going on in Maryland. A privately funded study was looking at the role of the keto diet in treating patients with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is an awful, debilitating disease. I visited people with schizophrenia in my work as a rabbi, and it is extremely difficult to treat. And several recent studies, including one at Stanford University, have proven that keto can help treat other severe mental illnesses like bipolar. And treating schizophrenia, using keto to treat schizophrenia, is a very promising area of research. Then out of nowhere, the Secretary of State of Maryland, not the Secretary of State, Secretary of Health and Human Services, shut down the study. She gave no explanation, no warning. The study follows every safety protocol. And these patients really have no viable treatment options. If this study worked, it could potentially transform their lives. No matter, she cut it off. Why? What motivates this dark side? Who are these people? How do they operate? Why do they want to cut off healing for so many people who suffer so much? And is there anything we can do to stop them? Well, the why comes down to three things: money, power, and ignorance. Money is obvious. The big food companies make huge amounts of money with processed foods. And in fact, it's not just processed foods. It's foods like fruits and vegetables as well. I saw a little tin of pears recently online. Someone posted a picture. The pears were picked in Argentina and packed in China. What? Is that really possible? How is that? First of all, how is that good for the environment to go twice across the world? And then think about it. How little must these companies be paying their workers if it's profitable to travel across the world twice before reselling these pears? You can make more and more of them and sell more and more of them and addict more and more people to more and more of them. Cows don't really scale easily. Now, with factory farming, which is awful, you can slaughter more of them, but that still takes a lot of land and a lot of time. Real food doesn't scale. And the food industry, scale means profits. And then there are pharmaceutical companies. Do you think they make any money off of a keto therapy treatment? No. And who funds many of the studies approved by the Secretary of Health and Human Services? Where do those studies get their money and their approval? Well, they get it from Big Pharma. And then where do those workers who work for the Secretary of Health and Human Services, where do they get jobs after they leave the government? Much higher paying jobs. They get them at the pharmaceutical companies. And the last thing pharmaceutical companies want is real competition from a simple, cheap diet. So massive profit gives food and drug companies massive power. Yes, power. I remember a little saying during the early days of the pandemic. Some of you might appreciate it. Somebody said, "It wasn't until the pandemic that I realized that almost every single one of my neighbors has a little tyrant screaming inside of them, wanting to tell everybody what to do." The truth is, many people want to control others. I don't feel that. I talked earlier about the Enneagram. You can see my video about it. I am an Enneagram 7, a free thinker, a nonconformist. So I really have no interest in power and telling people what to do. But so many people want power so they can tell others what to do and control and determine what they can eat. How powerful do you feel if you can determine how much millions of people eat? And how much better, how much even greater and more virtuous you feel if you can say, well, I'm just trying to improve your health. It's power hungriness in the guise of moral virtue signaling. I'm trying to do good by telling you what to do. And how powerful must it feel to say to someone else, sorry, we don't allow that treatment for your illness. I get to decide what medicines you can try. Of course, it's for your protection. Sure. A naturally, easily accessible cure like diet takes away many people's and many government bureaucrats' levers of power. And people don't like their power being challenged. In fact, such people, government officials, massive companies, they benefit from ignorance, massive ignorance. You remember that scene in the movie Animal House? What a great movie. The dean is talking with the guys in the fraternity, and he's looking at all of them, and he looks at the character. I can't remember his name. It's not the John Belushi character. It's a different one. And he looks at him and says, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. Well, now that's how big pharma and big food and big government actually want us to go through life. The public can't fight what it doesn't know. People didn't fight the smoking lobby until they realized how damaging it was. And the damage caused by the modern nutrition industry is much worse. The tobacco companies, in fact, know this. They bought up much of the processed food industry in the 1980s and 1990s. Old Guy Carnivore and I talked about this just recently. They figured they could addict young people without public outcry. When they tried to addict young people to cigarettes, that caused public outcry, but addict them to processed food? Oh, gets much less attention. Ignorance is bliss for the food and sugar industry, along with the pharmaceutical companies. They are laughing at us all the way to the bank. So what can we do about it? Well, I think there are 3 tracks. One is the activist track. This is what people like Dr. Chris Palmer is doing. Chris Palmer is a Harvard psychiatrist, tremendously positive force. I love his Twitter page, which I follow. And when the Maryland secretary shut down the ketogenic study, he launched a petition and collected over 20,000 signatures to reinstate the study. I think it's probably a hopeless cause, but I signed it. Many carnivore influencers and keto and simply people who care about health signed it. And I commend this activism. Dr. Palmer is incredible. His book, Brain Energy, is essential reading. I highly recommend it. And he's a wonderful humanitarian and advocate. But I do think activism on a political level on this type of issue really doesn't go anywhere. I don't think it makes much of a dent because we're like a pebble in the ocean for big pharma and big food and big health. These are trillion-dollar industries, not just billion dollars. There's trillions of dollars. I mean, healthcare is 1/6 of the American economy. Imagine how many people would be out of a job if we totally reformed our healthcare system. The power incentives are not aligned for political activism. The big money comes from food and pharma, not keto advocates. The second track is what my friend Kerry Mann is doing. He is the director, producer, creator of an upcoming documentary called Healing Humanity, which tells stories, interviewing incredible people who have healed massive illnesses with the carnivore diet. They are incredible carnivore stories of healing. You can't, if you see some of the previews, you can't help but shed a tear at these stories. And he also interviews incredible doctors just who are helping so many thousands of people get their lives back. That documentary will inform people about the carnivore diet who never would have heard of it. Yes, YouTube is huge. We have incredible. Dr. Barry has, I think, 3 million YouTube subscribers. So people are learning about the carnivore diet on YouTube, but there are many people who don't really watch much YouTube, but who do watch Netflix and Amazon Prime and go to movies. And if we can get a documentary out there, this can just touch and reach so many more people. And I think that will really help, because people know that our current system is not working. They know that something deeply is wrong with our modern healthcare system and our modern standard American diet. But people don't know that eating meat is an option they can embrace. A documentary can make many more people aware. So I'm hopeful, and I pray, and I've supported the documentary, and I have an interview with Kerry releasing tomorrow on Saturday, which just went so well. He is an incredible human being. So a beautiful, well-made documentary can catapult the carnivore diet into greater name recognition and knowledge. And we can do our part to help Kerry. So that's the second mode. The third track is essentially withdrawing from the modern healthcare and nutritional system. Essentially, we do our own thing. And I think that's what many of us are basically doing. If we go to the grocery store, we skip 99.9% of it and go right to the meat aisle and perhaps the dairy aisle. That's it. And this approach is not inconsistent with the previous one. We can try to teach people about the carnivore diet, and we can withdraw from the current system. Now, when it comes to medicine, I don't think it's smart to withdraw totally. I mean, surgeons can do incredible work. Sometimes we do have real illnesses that need real doctors to help us. But we also know that so many illnesses are chronic illnesses caused by what we eat. And when we change what we eat, we need that medical system much, much less. We can ignore all the things we get in the mail. We can ignore, we gotta worry about this disease and that disease. We can take care of our health. We can take care of ourselves. And when we withdraw from sort of the modern healthcare and food system, we won't eat out very much. We may go to social occasions, but we will rarely eat or drink anything there except water. And we can also talk about carnivore to people who may listen. We don't need to push people to change. In fact, that can be counterproductive. People change for two reasons. I've said this before. People change out of inspiration and out of desperation. Inspiration is when we see something we want to achieve and we go for it. We are inspired by some person or some idea. Unfortunately, when it comes to a major big change in diet like going carnivore, most people won't change out of inspiration. It's too daunting. Some people do, but people who change out of inspiration are few and far between. Rather, people usually change only out of desperation. Maybe they had a tremendous health scare, or an addiction, or a chronic illness. Maybe they've tried all kinds of diets, and every single one of them made them miserable and didn't work. And then they figure, what can I lose by trying carnivore? And then it works, and their lives are transformed. But then the government comes in and says, you can't try that. We're going to take that away. You're not following directions. So we can help inspire people simply by living our best lives at carnivore. We don't have to fight battles we can't win. We can win small battles in our everyday lives. And it's fun to do so. Carnivore brings a joy and a lightness to being. So we know that even if there is an ongoing war against carnivore, we can be happy warriors. Happy warriors fueled by meat and hope for healing humanity. Watch the interview with Kerry releasing tomorrow. See you next time.